Okay, 22. 22 of the month of Iyar. Kofbe is Oisius B'Torah. It's a kind of a shlemus, right? It's a completion. So let's please hear blessings for those who need to become whole again, meaning to become healed.
Baruch Binyamin ben Rachel Blima, Yehudis Golda bas Aliza Hana, Havik Daniela bas Naomi Hana, and Shoshana bas Hana.
Rachel bat Miriam Chava.
For Shlema B'Korev. Anybody else? Okay. Let's see what today has in store for us. Several, 22 Iyar. Several of the early Hasidim of the Alter Rebbe, had a Farbringen sometime between 1784 and 87. It's interesting that they know that range, but not which year exactly. Okay. And the core of the discussion was this. This is the core. This is the yesod, the foundation. I'm just looking inside, right? Yeah. Okay. This is the core. Quote, the Rebbe, meaning the Alter Rebbe, had accomplished something novel. What's the novel thing that he accomplished? That we are not alone. At one time, the master, meaning the Rosh Hashiva, or the Talmud Chochem, the wise one, was alone. Now this harks back to, one of the cornerstones of the Baal Shem's innovations, right? That the Yiddishkeit had kind of splintered into Emon Am, the common person, and those who were privileged. And privileged didn't mean that they were rich, but privileged to be occupied in Torah. And there was a big gap between the two. Alter Rebbe, inherited that and pulled it all together. So rather than being a master on one side and the people on the other, so he accomplished that the master and his disciples were no longer alone. The Hasidic way instituted by the Rebbe is a tremendous divine achievement. That the Rebbe is not alone, and this is the first part, actually to me, a more interesting part, that we are part of the Rebbe. So the Rebbe is not alone, and nor are his Hasidim alone, because the Rebbe is within us and in the marketplace, so to speak, with us. And that is a great accomplishment. When the Hasidic Rebbe is, on a pedestal. It's hard to say that the Rebbe is not on a pedestal. Of course he is, but the whole derech was his reach and his hug. It's a good word because it's used in Tanya about the relationship between Hashem and the Jewish people, a hug and a oneness. And that's, in a nutshell, what Hasidus is accomplishing, to bring that sense of oneness between us and the world, between us and God, etc., etc. Okay, with that, we're going to speak more about oneness, meaning love, coming together, but from a different angle. Lessons in Tanya. A little bit different angle. Starting a new chapter, chapter 50. And there's a not long note at the beginning, and then the actual words are on page 751. And in Likutei Amorim, over here, chapter 50 begins at the bottom of page Ayin. Ready? Go. Hine, vehine, behold. Kol bechinas u'madregas ha'ava hanal. All the levels of love that we spoke about earlier. And just to quickly review, we have two basic categories: avas oilam, the love that's drawn by his boininess about the world and the godliness which is hidden in it, and ava b'tainugim, or ava rabba, which is the sense of complete unification with Hashem and everything being total nullification of the self to the allness of God. And in those, after just putting those two on the table, the Alter Rebbe had told us that there's two kinds of love, which rises above both of them, both of those two levels. And one is I can remember, the love of the soul, related in metaphor, the soul to the body, that the body realizes that the soul is its life. So we realize that Hashem is our life, and it's also the flip side of Yira, that we're afraid to be separated from it, or we never want to be separated from it. And number two, the love of a child to a parent, an essential love, which expresses an essential bonding. Now, he says there's a level of love, all those levels of love which we spoke about earlier, in Mesitra de Yamina, they come from the right side. In general, love is the outcome of the Midah of Chesed, right? However, and very fitting, by the way, to our Sfira Omer, where the whole week we're in the Sfira of Gevura. Today is Yesod of Gevura, the very fundamental foundation of Gevura. We're going to speak.
No, it's Yesod week.
Yesod, it's Gevura of Yesod. You're right, the other way around. Gevura of Yesod. It's the power of bonding, the power of the relationship that holds two things together. The Gevura of Yesod. Thank you. And Gevura is not from the side of the right, it's from the other side, right? So this is a love like Gevura. So he said, the others were Besitra de Yamina from the right, and the Sitra of the right, the side of the right, this is the bottom of page Ayin, is the level of Kohen. The Kohen is the Ish Chesed, as expressed that way in the Torah. Ish Chesed, page 140, if you're following in Likutei Moharan. V'nikra Kesef, and this Ish Chesed, and V'nikra Kesef HaKadoshim, and this love is called the silver, or the desire. These two things, Nichsefos Gam Kol Nafshi, he's going to quote, my soul expires for you. My soul is like silver. And Nikra Kesef Kadoshim. This love, and we'll see why it's associated with Gevura in a minute, is associated with the holy silver. Miloshin Nichsof, different parts. Nichsoif v'nichsafto l'beis avicha. This is a line which is spoken by Lavan to Yaakov in Chumash Bereshis, when Yaakov wants to take off and go back to his homeland, to his father, and Lavan is admonishing him for not giving him a chance to say goodbye to his children and to kiss them, etc. And he says to Yaakov, you desire, nichsof v'nichsefas, I see you have a huge desire to return to the house of your father. Okay? Now that's lovely, that's silver, desire. But there's a love, the Alter Rebbe says, which rises above all of that. Like the advantage of gold over silver. So if the Kohanim are associated with Kesef Kadoshim, the silver offerings, there's another metal that's in fact very predominant in the temple, gold. And there's an advantage of gold over silver. And this phrase, it's a love like flaming fire, and fire is gavura. It has a huge power, a huge intensity. So eish, kerish be'esh, flaming fire, is bechinas gavura selyonis. This we could call in English a hugely passionate love, versus the other kinds of love. For instance, the essential love, the love of a child to a parent, which is essence, is a calm love. This is a fiery love. Gavura selyonis, which comes from the level of the supernal gavures, the bina ilor. Bina is on the left side, which is the side of gavura. And Bina, particularly, goes up to Keser. Bina particularly draws Keser down into the heart. Bina liba. Bina is the heart. Bohalev mevin, and it brings understanding. This is the Zohar. It brings the heart to understanding. And the heart is the source of flame, of fire, of warmth. So the Gevura Salyon is the Bina Allah. The Hainu, meaning, Shal Yedei his baininess, again, Lashon Bina, through contemplation, Bina, Bigadulas Ein Sabarachu, in the greatness of the infinite one, blessed be he. Contemplation that Kula Kamei Kale Mamish Chashiv, that everything is considered like nothing, that through that contemplation, Islahet Behislahev Benefesh, there will be inflamed and burning fire of the soul, Likor Hatiferes, to the beauty of the greatness of Hashem's Gudulasai and the beauty of his greatness. A person, to use a word that's sometimes negative, but here it's a lust for God, a passion for God. The histakel be accorded to Malka, to gaze in the glory of the King. Kirishbe Eshel Heves, like a flaming fire, Oza, a strong flaming fire, Ha'oila Lamaila, which rises up above, and we've mentioned this much before. The nature of the fire in its wanting to rise above is it wants to leave, like Nadav and Avihu. Their lust, their passion to leave, just like the flame. If you look at it, looks like it wants to leave the wood on which it's clinging, or like a flaming fire he uses in a lantern, to separate from the wick, and the woods, the wood, which the flame is grasping onto. So imagine, in your mind, this is a good martial, a dancing fire that's clinging. It's owes its existence to what's down below, but its inner desire is to leave and to cling to the one above. So this is the power of Gevurah. Gevurah here means strength, power, and as it does, in many times, the Shem Elokim is associated with the word, with the aspect of Gevurah, and Elokim is power, strength. So this is a strong, strong fire, a blazing fire. And here he brings, and again, it's Tagvuris is Gevurah, and Yesod is Yesod. So this is the Gevurah of Yesod. Tagvuris Yesod, the strengths, the powers of Yesod. It's like right on today's Midah, today's Omer. So V'hainu al yedei Tagvuris Yesod, the fundament is Yesod, and the Gevuras is the power. Tagvuras Yesod ha'esh, the power of the fundament of fire. Now here's referring Yesod here. There are four Yesodas: fire, earth, air, and water. So the Yesod here refers to those fundaments, but it's Yesod. So this is the Yesod, Tagvuras ha'Yesod ha'esh, the strength of the Yesod, the foundation of fire, Eloki, of godly fire. Shebenefesh Elokis, which is in the godly soul. And a fire dries things out, so it brings you to thirst. This flaming fire brings you to a thirst that needs to be quenched. So the fire brings you lideit simoin, the Kamasha Kosiv, as is written, David HaMelech writes, my soul thirsts for you. And to the extent that if a person stays in this sense of thirst without being satisfied, well, what happens? The bechinas choilas ava, you become sick. And this is love sickness, choilas ava, sick from the desire that has not been consummated. And afterwards, here we go with what happened with Nadav and Avihu. Ba lidei kloisa nefesh. You come to expiration of the soul, mamish. So this is a powerful. That is the Gevurah of this is Ava of Gevurah, the love that comes from Gevurah. to bring one ultimately to expiration of the soul, mamish. Kamashikosev is written, Gam kolso nafshi, my soul longs for you. Mehine mekan, from here, we can see, Yetze Shoresh HaLeviim. This is where the Leviim come from. This is a beautiful exposition, as we'll see as we go further. I mean, beautiful, I think, I don't know what you think, of the difference between the Kohanim and the Leviim. So we'll contrast here. Look at the Leviim. Leviim down here, Lamata, down here below. And then he has an interesting bracket. L'osid, in the future, Sha'olam Yis'ala, when the world is elevated completely, I put in the word completely, when the world is elevated, Yiyuheim HaKayanim, the Leviim will become the Koyanim. Kamishikosev the Arizal writes, Al Pasuk, there's a Pasuk in Yechezkel, it says, V'kanim HaLeviim. It associates the priesthood with the Leviim, HaKoyanim HaLeviim. And the Arizal says, that tells us in a secret way, Shehalavim Shalachshov, that the Leviim of now, Yiyu Kahanim La'osid, will become the priest in the future. But avoid this Halavim, look at what did the Leviim do in the temple? Lahorim Koil, Rina. Their whole avoider was to lift up a voice of song, V'teda, and thanksgiving. The Shira V'zimra, they did it with song and with musical instruments. Benigan v'ne'ima, with nigan and with harmony, with sweetness. V'bechinas ratzei v'shoiv, in a manner of ratzei v'shoiv. Shehi bechinas ava aza, which is a great avazu, which is this great love, kishel heves, like a flame. So here, just is interesting to note, no pun intended, since we're speaking about music, but interesting to note that a flame flickers. And music, the beauty of music is all about the movement, the tenua, the relationship between notes and the harmonization of the relationships in chords and the movement. You know, and the symphonies are written in movements. That's what we call them in English, right? Movement. So this is the power of love that has a motion to it, and a strong motion to it, and we'll use the word right now, bezek. This is like a flaming fire of flame, hayetze min ha-bezek, which goes out from bezek. The bezek was a crucible in which and I don't know if they still use this technology today, but in ancient times, that's where they refined the gold. You know that bezek is the name of the Israeli national power company, bezek. And it refers to, in Kabbalah, the notion, like the jagged notion, which is like alternating current. You know, yes, alternating. And the alternations produce a movement and a flow. And everything that's embedded in this is that power of love, which has a racing to it, and a rising to it, and then a falling back, and then another rise to another level. So this is the passion of the fire, the kloisa nefesh, the desire, a love that's full of desire. The Gemara talks about the flame of gold being distilled in the bezek in the Gemara Perek Beis of Chagiga. The Alter Rebbe says it's impossible to explain this inyan heitev very well, b'miktav, in writing. Rakol ish nilvov v'novan hamaskil al dover, but any person, and this is us, who puts his heart to it, the nilvov, v'novoin, and lashon bina, hamaskil, who uses his intellect who is a maskil, and uses one who has seichel and uses his bina al dover on this thing. Umamik lakasha daite v'tubanosai behashem, and deepens himself in this that we've just been speaking about, thinking about this love karish be'esh, a love like flaming fire, the mila of gold over silver, the lust. I mean, we didn't really speak about this, but the mile of gold over silver is, of course, in the marketplace, right? Gold has a greater value, and gold is valued for a luster that it has that silver doesn't have. And all of that is meant to say that there's increased value in the love like gold than there is in the love like silver. Love like gold is a love like karish be'esh, to flaming fire. And if a person will contemplate deeply into this, the kasha daite v'tuvanasai, to tie, unify, bring together his das and his understanding b'Hashem, yim satoiv, he will find good. So the Alter Rebbe said, I can't really explain this to its ultimate in writing, but do it, and you will find good. Yim satoiv ve'or hagonis, you will find good and the hidden light, like the gold, which is buried deep in the earth. You will find the gold, the hidden goodness, binafshe, in your soul, amaskelis, in the intellectual soul, the soul which is contemplating. Amaskelis. Kol chad lefum shura delay, each one of us according to our level. V'yesh mispoil, v'yesh mispoil. One gets excited this way, one gets excited that way in different levels. Acharei hakadimus, now this comes, remember to say, the yira comes before ava, and this comes, and this particular kind of love is, you'll see how it pointedly comes after the yira, because after kadimus ha-yiraschet, the first level of love, which we call yiraschet. And what is yiraschet? The esur meira, to turn from evil, betachlis, shelo yiliyes avenaseichem labdilim. So, as we've been saying over and over, so that you're not separated. Avos yiraschet keeps you away from doing things which will separate you from Hashem. And we've spoken about this many times before, like it's like putting a barrier in front of a pit so that you don't fall into it. Or I've used, remember my fish out of water example? The fish is afraid to leave the water because he knows that leaving the water is leaving his life. So with that foundation of being afraid to separate yourself from your life force, rises a desire of like flaming fire to be joined with your life force in a passionate way.
There's 10 commandments. Now, a guy says 10 commandments.
Wait a minute.
Finished, right? And I heard it once from Wendell Jones, who was a Beneach. There's not 10 commandments, there's 7 commandments. He says,
All right, guys. And those who hear my recording, sorry for that. Nevertheless. Well, we're at the end of this anyway. So, questions, comments? Yeah, whoever. Who's
Ayanka, sorry.
Ayanka, yeah, that's good.
I was thinking about that people lust for gold,
Yes. Heart of gold.
but people have a lust for it, like they really desire and they want it.
That's correct. That's the characteristic of this. That's why I used that word earlier, lust. There's a lustful feeling, a passion, a burning passion for it. And the flip side of that is the depression that comes from being separated. You know, I mean, this the metaphor of a husband and wife, or two friends who are deep friends with each other. They have a deep passion to be connected with each other, and they are not feeling so good when they're separated from each other. And this is a rotzei v'shoyev, meaning the sense of separation kindles a strong desire to connect, and the strong desire to connect brings you close. And therefore, he used the mashal of music, but you could also use the mashal of dancing, and it is used often in considers also. The choig, the chagiga, choig, that the dance back and forth, which we do at weddings, they separate out and come back together. So all of that motion, the sea motion also, the waves, undulating, always on the move. That's the quality of Ava Zohar. It's always on the move. And it says even about, in the future, it says about the future, I think it's a Zohar because the language is in Aramaic, that Mashiach will bring the tzaddikim to do shuva. So initially what we understand from this, we, meaning Hasidus, is that there's a mila of the Baal Shuva over the tzaddik. The tzaddik is there. The Baal Shuva is always arriving. And to be always arriving means there's always a sense of distance and closeness, which is the sense of passion. And that tzaddikim will do shuva, not in the way that we understand it, because we know what a tzaddik gomer is, not from shuva from averos, but from feeling the sense that though I'm here, I'm a tzaddik, I've finished with all that negativity, right? But there's more. And I will return. I want to go back to the deeper source of my source. And arriving there, I want to go back to the deeper source of the source of my source. And that's an energy of fire, always wanting to move and connect at a deeper level.
Right. But I was also thinking about when you said about gold, that people lust for it, and there's gold, the gold rush and the gold fever.
Right.
And
They're good. Yeah. All those are great.
And there isn't that same tava for silver as much.
Right. You're absolutely right. That's what he's pointing out. I love it. Gold rush. Huh? Oh, rushing. I need this. I got to have it. I mean, how many thousands of people went out to discover gold in the early days of the gold rush? That's all here in this metaphor. Ava Karish be'esh, love like flaming fire, which is the love like gold. Yeah. All right. Well, a huge opportunity for us living in this world of chaos and separation. I love what Moshe put in today's Tanya. If you guys look at it from one of the Rishimas of the Rebbe, the metaphor of a sewing needle. Our job is to sew the fabric of reality back together again from its torn state. And we do it. How do you do that? With passion. That's the only way that we're going to overcome. With a passion that's greater than the passion of the other side. Who's up? Pesharivka.
Hi. And the Alter Rebbe gives us a meditation. I mean, you're talking about trying to track some of these meditations, but the Alter Rebbe gives us a meditation in this section about how to achieve that. It says a meditation on the Gadlut Hashem, the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. That's before whom everything is meaningless, basically.
All right.
Not, or nothing considered. The word.
Everything is considered like nothing in front of it.
Yeah. So, so it's but we're still using our intellect to the point here.
Yeah, well, that's how we do his binding.
Yeah, the emotional movement is motivated by meditation.
Yes.
To keep in mind sort of the relative nature of our existence.
Right.
and that we can connect with something else it's not relative to
good. Absolutely. Okay, so let's like fire, burn up the world. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.